Let's talk about life, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the truth and consciousness, divinity. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about love. Welcome to Spiritual Nerd, and I'm your host, Ninette Terhart, and today we are geeking out with Cate Grieves. Hello, Cate. How are you?
Hi, Ninette. Lovely to join you today.
Nice to see you, and thank you for joining. I would like to just talk a little bit about you for those that don't know you or just getting to know you. Cate Grieves has been a student of A Course of Miracles for 20 years and a teacher for 4. She currently works as a spiritual therapist via Zoom with her students of the course and offers short-stay spiritual retreats at her house. I love that. She does an hour-long talk show each week. Now, what day is that? It's 7 p.m. Eastern, but what day is that?
Sunday night.
Oh, wonderful. Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern on Awakening Together Radio. Cate shares Holy Spirit prayers on her Facebook page, dedicated to helping others remove the blocks to allowing prayer to be a natural habit. And also, Cate has a YouTube channel under her name where she shares her weekly talks and messages relating to awakening to God's limitless love. I love it. Well, Cate, thank you so much for being here. And I would really enjoy hearing some highlights of your journey to this wonderful awakening path.
Well, where to start?
Right?
Would you like to hear a little bit about my journey to awakening? But generally, people are interested in those sort of things, although they're not really in something that I spend much time thinking about or talking about much these days. So this is my 20th year, 2019. This is my 20th year of studying the course. I picked up the book in 1999 in a bookshop. I was really calling out for an answer, and I was really, it's the calling of our heart. That really, that calling, there has to be another way. Help me. I don't know. I'm lost. There's no answers. I keep struggling. I'm struggling in this world, and I can't find happiness. And all those those thoughts that we all have, because we're living in the ego mind, and that you seek and do not find, and we're seeking for happiness. And so for me, I was a spiritual nerd. I was a spiritual dummy. I had no idea. I had not really studied spirituality. My life, the ego had steered me into seeking in career and relationships and all of those sort of things. I wasn't really ever in a spiritual path. I hadn't done any spiritual seeking as such as, the traditional way where people are going to India and seeking in that sort of way, I would say. So it doesn't really matter, because it's all the same seeking. So I pulled this book off the bookshelf, and as I pulled it out, I heard the words in my mind: throw out every other book you've got. This is the only one you need. And I thought, wow. And I had a lot of self-help books. So I bought the Course in Miracles and I took it home, and I felt this love coming through the pages, and I really felt this was the answer, but I had no idea what it was saying. And in 1999, I was not really, the internet was probably around then, but it never entered my mind for 14 years that there would be anyone else. It never occurred to me there might be a teacher, there might be a group. It was always just that it was me and the book. It was me and the message from the book. So I worked on and off for 14 years, living my life just reading the Course in Miracles, wanting to just sort of sitting quietly and, you know, struggling a lot with what is this message? What does this mean? What does that mean? Not really understanding about the Holy Spirit, but I did, I was really seeking, and I knew the answer was there. I knew it intuitively, and I kept going back to it, even though I was struggling to understand the message. And I was doing the lessons. So I would start the lessons and I would do them, and I'd get up to like lesson 50, lesson 100, and I'd say, you know what, I haven't done this properly. I haven't understood anything. So I'd start. So after 14 years, I'd never gone probably past lesson 150 maybe. I kept going back to the start, giving up, saying I'm failing, it's not working. I don't understand what it means. And I had been having lots of special relationships, and they were all failing at that stage. And in December 2012, a relationship broke up with a man that I had been in a relationship with about 14 months, and there'd been a beautiful connection. And I just, the ego in my mind was just demanding love present itself in a certain way, the way that ego does. The ego demands love be this way, or else it's not love. I lived in a whole story, and I mean, it wasn't until much, much later on I started to get a really clear picture of how the ego works in our minds. But at that stage, I was stuck in the ego. And so I broke up with him on New Year's Eve, and I cried for 2 weeks. And then I just picked up the Course in Miracles about 2 weeks later, and I looked at it and I said, right, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to do it completely. I'm going to do it wholly. I'm going to dedicate my life and myself to this path, and I'm going to find out, I think the answer's here. The answer's not in a relationship. So I decided to stay out of a relationship for 2 years and completely give everything over to this. You know, I still had my work. I was working full-time as an accountant. So I still worked during that period, but all my time was spent reading the Course, meditating. I just did whatever it said to do. And then I started going to a course group, and there was only one at that time in Melbourne, and there's still only, I think, 2 or 3 in Melbourne. I run one of them now. And so I went along. There was only about 5 or 6 of us there every week, but I have a lot of gratitude for the guy that ran, the couple that ran the group. And they had been running that group for 20 years.
Wow.
And he'd been over to sit with Ken Wapnick. He's actually in one of the videos.
Wow.
Asking Ken Wapnick a question. So he was a fantastic teacher. So I went there every week. I used to drive an hour to get to this meeting and an hour home. I wanted it so much. And that was it. I was all in. There was no holding me back. So I completely gave myself over to the Course's teachings, and I started to work with the Holy Spirit. I got David Paul Doyle's book and DVD on 5 Steps to Hearing God's Voice. And I got a lot out of doing that, helping me understand what the Holy Spirit's voice was, so I just did everything. It didn't come natural. There was wasn't easy. And I had a lot of difficulties in my life at that time, and I just gave it all over to the Holy Spirit. And I said, right, so my focus was undoing the ego. I had no idea what awakening was. I didn't know what that meant. So I just thought, started to join other little groups of Course in Miracles people, went to a couple of retreats. And it was really hard. I cried more in that 2 years as I gave up all the things that I believed was true about my family, about my ex-partners. I had to be wrong about everything.
Right.
So that was it. I had to be wrong, and it was hard because the ego was telling me, hey, if you give up this belief, if you give up this grievance, was telling me stories. So it's a constant joining with the Holy Spirit. And on my path, I came to a place where I joined with Jesus, and that was a massive healing for me. I could spend hours telling you the stories about these things. I had a nightmare one night. I'll just tell you quickly this particular little one. There's lots of beautiful stories around my journey of healing my mind, or having my mind healed. And when I woke up in the morning, and I don't dream, and I very rarely have nightmares. And this was during that 2-year period. And I woke up and I got a message a few minutes later from a friend, a sister of a Course in Miracles friend, and she said, I just got a very strong message to send you a message this morning to say, are you okay? And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And she works with this community of agape love, Jesus' love. And I said to her, I've just had this terrible nightmare, but I have to go to work. And she said, well, look, let's meet up tonight. I'll call you tonight. We'll talk about it. And what happened was, when I started talking to her about the nightmare and going through it, and we were getting some clarity on what the symbols of the dream, the nightmare meant, she said to me, you interested in joining with Jesus? And I'd never thought of doing that in my mind. And so she introduced me, and within 1 minute I said to her, do you mind if I take over this? I said, because I am with Jesus now. And I just went through this, and I was telling her what was happening. And I had this huge healing, like so much of my mind got healed that night. And I saw her part in it, but my part. So that meditation that we did together, that's one of the things I do now with people. I introduce them into it, like she introduced me. And then I ask people, because our mind is so fearful of this beautiful, pure love of the Christ. It's not Jesus, it's the Christ's mind's love. We're so fearful of it. We've got so much unworthiness. Everyone has unworthiness. No one gets away with it. The ego's thought system is deep, deep guilt, fear and unworthiness. And this Christ love is the healing balm. That's what Jesus has told me, that the Course in Miracles teaching are like a healing balm to us. And so much of my mind, when I woke up the next morning after that, so much of the darkness had gone. I felt like there was a freeing. So these were aspects when I joined the Holy Spirit and Jesus throughout my journey. There was a lot of just this. I got sort of given certain things to do on my journey, to bless, to wash people's feet in my mind. There was just this, to say I love you in my mind to anyone that I was having difficulty with. The Holy Spirit would give me something from the Course. It was all through this really deep calling out that I want to be free of the ego mind. So that's where really, and I knew what the ego was. I could sense it, and I wanted to be free. So within 12 months of me making that commitment, nearly to the day, I had a revelation experience, and that was just amazing. It was so beautiful. I had no idea that there was an experience that could come that would just be just so amazingly beautiful and peaceful, and just their love. And then after that, I worked again with, you know, the deeper aspects of the egoic mind to clear it, and I worked for another 12 months, and then nearly exactly to the date, 12 months later, I had what they call a spiritual awakening, which was just, I was in the shower one Wednesday morning, a normal Wednesday morning, got up in the morning to get ready for work, and that was it. Everything shifted in my awareness in that moment, and it was like the whole world changed. Everything was God, everything sparkled. It was like literally I was still seeing it, but I was just it was like something had just completely dropped away, and this new way of seeing came through, and I just thought, oh my God, it's all love. Everything's love. It's just shining and beautiful and radiant. And in that moment, it was like my mind got this massive download of, all I can say is like all the course's lessons got put together in like a knowing. I knew how that lesson linked to that lesson, and it didn't take any time. It was like in 1 second, it all exploded into an understanding or a knowing how everything worked. And the quietness, that was the other thing that was so noticeable. My mind was so quiet. It was like this stillness came in, and that hasn't left. And that was January 2015. So it's just been 4 years.
Wow. Such an inspiration. I'm telling you, hearing you talk. Oh, I love it.
And it was beautiful. But I was shown a couple of weeks later after that, I was shown this dot to dot by Jesus, and he said there's a couple of lines that weren't joined, and he said there's more to come. There's a little bit more, hang in there. So for the next 12 months, even though I was in this beautiful, clear mind, more was dropping in. I started to, at one stage, I was able to see how the whole tiny mad idea happened. I was able to also experience how everything's happening all at once. It's like a knowing, it's like your mind, at that stage, you're moving into a mind that's not linear, and there's like a knowing or an understanding of how everything works, and how this whole world is just a dream made up, and and then also it's like you can see the ego, but you don't react to it. You just see, it's like you really see the sleepwalking. It's like you see everyone asleep. Their eyes are open, but they're asleep in their story and their dream. And there's literally, it feels really weird because there's nothing you can do to help anyone, because you can say, that's a story, but they believe it. Yep. So the Holy Spirit kept saying to me, the only thing you can offer anyone is that this works. That's really all you can say, is keep going. This is the result of it. And there are some, so anyway, I was guided to do some talks, and I do some groups. But the other thing that I also, on my journey, I was seeing everyone as Christ, and in that moment of awakening, I knew everyone was Christ. It was he says it's knowledge, and knowledge is certainty, and it completely blew away anything else that could come in that could cover over the truth, and that was it. It was like my eyes were opened, but it's really your mind, your perception changes, and you know you're living in God's mind. And I also this ancient song, I started hearing this song, and I felt like I was in the song. So the concept of Cate and a separate being dropped away, and there was just God and I. There was just this see, God is just this perfect love. And then I just went back to that because the blocks had been removed. And then I just heard this angelic song. It's just like angels singing and all this musical instruments that aren't here in this world. This song, I'd never heard it before. And once I heard it, then I started to say, oh, that's why it says in the Course, this ancient song. It is a song. And that's why it's called the Song of Prayer. You see, there's all these little hints around those. So the prayer is you joining God in the song. So you're singing to God and he's singing back to you, and it's the most beautiful experience.
I mean, I'm really starting to, I've only been doing A Course in Miracles for 8 months, and I'm like, 20 years, oh my God. But there's hope for me. But I'm starting, Kate, to see the intertwinings and the holographic, symphonic, I'm starting to see the weavings. And sometimes it's so precious that there's no words, you're just in there. And it's so beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, for those that are just getting into this, what do you think the main message of A Course in Miracles is?
It is a gentle way of awakening. So the most important thing is to just work at your own pace. And I mean, I can give you, a message of what the Course in Miracles is about, but I feel just strongly to talk to anyone that's listening about their own journey. So just go gently. Just know that everything, if you put the Holy Spirit in charge of your day, so in chapter 30 for Rules for Decision, he says just put the Holy Spirit in charge of your day, in charge of all your decisions and all your responses to situations. So I would say just know that you're going to have your bad days where the ego ramps up and you can't hear the Holy Spirit. So just choose a lesson that really works for you. I rest in God. So the days the ego got very vicious, told me I'd go mad or lose my friends, lose my job, be homeless. It has a whole big story of suffering and sacrifice if you undo its false thought system. Just know that that's the ego ramping up, and sometimes, just be gentle. The ego comes with you on the journey. It critiques you. The ego will tell you that you're failing constantly at the course, that you didn't do the lesson properly. It will point out the times when you didn't repeat the lesson. It will tell you to go back and do the lesson. And that's why we have to really follow the instructions of the lesson, that it's the practicing of it. And just if you don't practice it properly, just move on, because it will come around. It's really, so when we do the lessons, we have to get to a state really where we're coming to a place where we're surrendering. We're really, every time you repeat a lesson during the day or sit and meditate and join with God or hand your life over the day over to the Holy Spirit, you're surrendering. Every part of the course is got even though the word's not used a lot in the course, it is a surrendering. So we do all these little surrenders, but there does come a stage on your journey where you just surrender everything. You surrender your life, your finances, your house, your body.
It's everything.
Everything, and you just say, use me for your holy purposes. And it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful way to live, because it's just, you come just to a complete trust. Everything. I don't have any past or future in my mind anymore. I don't have to like when I was doing that for that 2 years, I was like so vigilant. I was just super, super vigilant for my mind and what the ego was up to. And so the way I did the course was I noticed when I was upset or out of peace, I gave it to the Holy Spirit, like your little lovely song, hand it over. And then I said, please help me see this differently. Above all else, I want to see this differently. So I'm asking the Holy Spirit to bring in another way to replace the way I'm seeing it with the ego mind. And that really helped. And then the third step is where the Holy Spirit brings it in. So sometimes it doesn't happen at the start. It could have been a week before I got something that helped shift my perception. Right. But as I kept working with that prayer and that process, I could just call it was my Course in Miracles process, it seemed to start to get faster and faster, the time that was between when I helped me see this differently. And then in the end, it was as soon as I said it, I would get the answer. I'd say, okay, that actually that person's asking for love. Yeah, they're calling out for love. And the Holy Spirit just says to me, just ignore what anybody does, the presentation of a body in front of me or the words. My job is to love. And that's really just it. That's it. So that was, my message to anyone that's doing the Course in Miracles is don't judge yourself. You're going to have difficult days. You're going to have doubt. That doubt's going to be there maybe for a day or two, and then before you know it'll be gone and you'll be back to clear mind, and then doubt will come back in, and then it'll go, and then it'll come back in, and it continues to do that. And just to know, okay, I'm in doubt today, just to sit with it. It's okay, I've got doubt in my mind about Course in Miracles and what it'll do, and if it'll sit with that and just say, okay, that's okay. I'll just sit with that. I don't have to push it away or throw the book in the bin or burn it or anything. That's what Jesus is telling me. I'm going to have some doubt. So come to a gentleness around the doubt and just be gentle with yourself. Okay, that's normal.
A definite softening is occurring. I'm noticing that. So that's very cool. And I know you offer, can you talk a little bit about your sessions that you offer and your retreats?
Okay, so for the last sort of 2 years, I've been doing one-on-ones, and so I just offer sort of 1 hour to 1.5 hour sessions via Zoom.
Okay.
And I have, so that's been going on. Different people, some people come in and have worked. So one lady worked with me every week for about 14 months, and she had an awakening. After that, she didn't need to talk to me anymore. A couple of people have worked with me off and on. Some people just come in for some processes. So the 3 processes I use are, I do Byron Katie's The Work. I do my own version of Diedrich Walsat's 6 Steps for Freedom, which is based on A Course in Miracles. I've just tweaked that a little bit for how I work. And the third way is the meditation with Jesus, where we join together in a visualization. And so you can, if you're listening and you do this visualization with Jesus on your own at home, and it's beautiful. But sometimes people like to be led into it by someone that's sort of just like the mind is so fearful of love. It feels so unworthy to sit in front of this beautiful love, this beautiful Christ love. So sometimes and sometimes it's just talking. So I offer that. And what I do with the payment, which is I follow the psychotherapy pamphlet, where we join together and we let the Holy Spirit decide what money I need, and if any, and what they can afford to pay, if any. So you generally, the person decides, the other mind decides what they generally. I most of the time the Spirit's saying let them decide. Occasionally I get a figure brought in, but so I work in accordance with, because I completely trust that anything I need will be, and whatever money I need to have to buy food and pay bills, well, the Holy Spirit will bring the people in to offer the money, or the things will come, however it is.
Now, can they get a hold of you by your email? Is that the best thing that I can put up on the video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's Cate Grieves at hotmail.com, and yeah, if you want to put that up, that's probably the best way. Okay. I don't have many spots available at the moment. Okay. I do, but I've got a really good app for working. It tells me about time zones all throughout the world. I do a group at my house on a Tuesday from 10:30 till 3. So I have a group of Aussies, the Aussie people, and I put Zoom on at that particular time. I put the Zoom so people can join in via Zoom with the day. Yeah. It's not recorded. You can just come in and leave however you like. And so that's mainly because there's some people that live in other states of Australia. And also, a lot of the people that come to my group, it's about an hour's drive to my house. So sometimes they just like to join by home. They mix it up. Okay. And the spiritual retreats that I do, I've been doing that now I did it all last year and starting to do it this year. So I offer short stays, so that's a little bit like a spiritual Airbnb.
Nice.
So they come along and they've got a little bedroom of their own. They live in a house, though. We've got a little 3-bedroom house. And generally what happens is we'll join together in the morning and we'll go through whatever lesson they're on, and I'll sit with them and I'll jump into bed with them and snuggle in and we'll do the lesson together, and we just talk, and I just let them talk. We share, what does this lesson mean and how can we look at it? And so the weekend's really just given over to the Holy Spirit, and sometimes we'll do some of the processes. Generally, that it's a really lovely, the people that have come have said they've had a lot out of it. So it's about usually 2 nights. Okay. Friday and Saturday night. They'll arrive Friday evening and they'll head off sort of Sunday afternoon to go back home. And I've had a few people fly in from all different places around Australia. I haven't had anyone come from overseas. I've had a few people say they'd like to. Yeah. But at the moment, it's really good just for a couple of days. That seems to work. 2 or 3 days, there's enough there. They're usually, but they already generally have some sort of healing just making the decision to come and see me. Right. And some people say my ego was so scared to come here.
Oh, I bet.
Because they know that it's going to be really big change. And yeah, there's been some people that have come and have had some really big shifts. It's really started the ball rolling in a big way. And I've got some that come back every 2 or 3 months. They come back for a few days. And so it's just whatever it is. It's beautiful, but it's that time, and we'll just sometimes meditate together. It's not all talking and processes, because this process is about taking the message in and then allowing time for that message to marinate and permeate and open in our mind. So it's this getting into the silence as well. So.
Wonderful, Kate. Well, before we finish up, I have some fun questions for Kate.
Okay.
So these are just kind of like either ors. But okay, so would you rather be an acrobat or a show dog trainer?
An acrobat.
Okay, that's fun. If you were on an island for 2 years by yourself and you had to be with someone that is not in form at this time, sharing the island with you, who would that be?
Jesus.
Yeah, okay. Chocolate or vanilla ice cream, love?
Vanilla ice cream.
I love the way you say vanilla. So cute. Okay, either being the Bionic Woman or Wonder Woman.
Uh, I'm not sure. I don't think I watched really either of those shows, but
Oh, okay.
I think we're all Wonder Women.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And then last question I have for you is, what would your, advice be to someone that comes to you that is struggling, and what would you want them to leave with after they have a short chat with you? You pass them in the street or something.
Right. Well, my message is always that you are perfect, whole, and complete now. You've always been. There's never been a time where you haven't been completely perfect, absolutely dynamically beautiful. You are that now. You've always been that, and you always will be. And it doesn't matter what you do, whatever you've done in this lifetime, in form, however you've done it, nothing can touch that. And even if you're unaware of it, it's always there. You can't change it. It's your changeless, it's called the changeless dwelling place.
Yeah, wow.
So that is what we need to get in touch with, what we need to remember. We have to remember that we don't have to earn our way to God. We're already there. We're already that. We just have to remove the blocks. So it's important. That's been one of the things that the Holy Spirit has really said. This is the message you have to give everyone. So everyone that I meet, everyone that I Skype with or meet, even with you, and I know we've talked before, that's the message. You don't have to do anything to be your beautiful, eternal Christ self. You are the Christ. There's nothing you need to change to be your beautiful, lovely, gorgeous self. And that's really it.
Wow, Kate, I just
Yeah,
love you dearly. Thank you so much for your time. And just thank you for being the bright light. You're such an inspiration. I watch all your stuff on YouTube and all your posts. And I'd love to have another interview at some point because I've got so many more questions. But thank you so much.
I just wanted to say this is how I usually like to end any connection. Is just I love you and I bless you and I honour you. So thank you for joining.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Cate Grieves so much for joining me today on Spiritual Nerd, and I look forward to the next time when I get to be geeking out with you.
Let's talk about life, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the truth and consciousness.